Okay, so it is my pleasure to get us to the final talk today. Those of you who've been here know we always have a closing talk, and Brian and Greg and I spend weeks and months, oh, this would be a fun one, or that would be a fun one, or something unique, something interesting. And we were doing these discussions, and Greg started talking about the final talk, and I thought, well, it's Greg. It's not something else this year. He had some thoughts to share. So without further ado.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. So, so thankfully, Christina brought these, but really, Yvonne. Okay, my mistake. Although I was looking at these and I thought, you know what, the Costco size would have actually been better. I'm still pretty overwhelmed from yesterday. I mean, I just can't even put it into words. My wife Cindy is here. Would you mind raising your hand? Yeah. So she completely surprised me, and I just told her what had happened, and I was, couldn't even finish my sentence. Just profoundly grateful for this community that I'm going to remain connected to. So this is my final meeting. No news there. We've been talking about that as director. I hope not my final meeting ever, though, because I love you guys. You're my community. This is the best NASA job I've ever had, and that says a lot. I mean, Mae Jemison was a close personal friend of mine, and I helped her, in her efforts to get into space. I helped start the field of astrobiology. I managed a partnership with the National Cancer Institute on early detection of breast cancer. So there's been some really, really cool things in the last 40 years. This is the best. So anyway, what I want to do is talk about connection. And I really liked this quote as the start to the talk. I think connection is why we're all here, not just in Albuquerque or all the people that are online right now. Hi, Doris. But in the broader endeavor that we call exploration science. It's what makes this more than just presentations and panels. This isn't supposed to happen this quick. It's what gives it heart, and you guys know me pretty well. That's at the core of who I am, and I think the core of who we are together. We connect across time zones, across institutions, and across disciplines, across national borders, across generations, right? I mean, we have 3 generations of people here. We have the old farts like me, we have the mid-career people, and then we have people that are just getting started. And to those early career people, it's been so awesome connecting with all of you. I met some pretty new, pretty amazing people. Turning over the reins to all of you guys, man, you're gonna rock it. We do these connections. Of course, it makes our science better. But also because it reminds us that we're part of something bigger than ourselves. When I look back over the arc of my 40 years with NASA and over 17 with Survey, and how the heck is that possible? Our daughters, Cindy's and my daughters, were little girls when we started, and I remember actually being with them in the car when NLSI was new, and I asked them they used to sing a lot together, and I asked them to come up with a jingle, which they did for NLSI. It was like, at the Lunar Science Institute. And now one's in medical school, one's about to start a PhD. I guess that gives us perspective, right? But it's the people that I think of first. The laughter at the meetings, and yeah, there's a lot of that. We have occasional setbacks, but I work closely with my right-hand person, and soon to be acting director, I hope permanent director, and as well as close friends at headquarters. And I sure wish that Sarah and Amanda had been able to be here, but and as well as Louise and Lori. But Jake and Audrey were here, and I'm really grateful for that. But these people have helped us so much and have become friends over the years, and that helps us, solve the problems that are inevitable. You guys don't hear about most of that. Christina and I, we work it, we solve it, and you don't even need to hear about it. And our job, of course, is to keep that money flowing to enable you guys to make these crazy, amazing discoveries that you do. The thrill of these discoveries has been amazing. And at each and every one of our executive committee meetings, I get so excited, this last one on Monday being no exception. And I have to say, okay, Greg, got to hold back, because I always have a long list of questions that I want to ask the PI. I thought I got to be fair to everyone else, but I do take director's prerogative and ask the first question or two, but it's just so amazing to be a part of this and to be watching these discoveries unfold. It's really incredible. We work together across boundaries of field of research, like I mentioned earlier, across our backgrounds, sometimes across language. We have a vigorous international program. I started this literally 17 years ago this month. Christina has managed it very ably and with a whole lot of fabulous ideas for a number of years now. And it's that shared sense of purpose that gives us the strongest connection. So Herman Melville said, and I made a little, I used director's prerogative, I suppose, to change our fellow men to our fellow people here, but we can't live just for ourselves. 1,000 fibers connect us with our fellow people, I'm going to say. And our connection's always been deeply human, even as we aim for other worlds. We've reached towards the moon, not just to land instruments or astronauts, but to connect with a deeper understanding of where we come from. We study the dust and the plasmas. We study the regolith. We study lunar history. And we study so much else with this wonderful institute and this fabulous community, not just for the noble purpose of science, but to prepare humanity to leave its cradle, following the famous Tsiolkovsky quote. And as we push beyond, eventually, the moon towards Mars, and we search for life beyond Earth, we're really expressing something hopeful, the desire not to be alone. Connection coming in again. Every rover and every orbiter is an emissary of that yearning. And every time we receive a signal back from these robotic extensions of ourselves, they're really part of us. Even just a ping, it's a kind of cosmic connection. As Carl Sagan said, we're a way for the cosmos to know itself. We're star stuff. And for those who aren't familiar with this picture, it may not look like much. For those who don't know it, I've known it for decades. Brian knows it. This is the pale blue dot. This is when Carl Sagan put a lot of effort into pointing the Voyager spacecraft, which was out there to look at all of the outer planets, pointing it back at Earth and looking at us. And this is one of my favorite pictures. I have another one of my favorites in just a little bit. And there's quite a story for that I'll tell another time of what it took for Carl to get this shot. Survey, from its earliest days as the NASA Lunar Science Institute, has been a model of connection. I was fortunate to be a part of the formation of the NASA Astrobiology Institute. I was on a small committee at Ames that created this virtual institute model. It was an experiment. We didn't know if it was going to work, but it did. It did work. And then Alan Stern, who once shared the story back when he was associate administrator for science, he thought, this was during the Constellation program, he thought, we're going back to the moon. We need to do a virtual institute focused on that. And that was the beginning of the NASA Lunar Science Institute. They asked David Morrison, who was a good friend even back then, to be its interim director. Although, as I tell people, he was interim director long enough that I refuse to call him that anymore. I call him the founding director of our institute. He grabbed me in the cafeteria one day and said, "Greg, you helped me form the NAI. How about doing a Lunar Science Institute? How about you being the deputy?" And as I tell people, after several nanoseconds of careful deliberation, I said, "Yeah, that sounds like fun," and it has been fun. We connect disciplines that once felt far apart. We connect geology, astrophysics, geophysics, engineering, and so many others. We connect science with mission planning, testing, and operations. We connect people across the world with our international program through shared questions and shared dreams. And that model of connection is snowballing. Christina and I were in Germany. I mentioned this earlier, I think, but we, between the two of us, we established the African Lunar Symposium, which was held in March, and we're going to help people in Latin America establish their lunar symposium and help people in Asia do the same thing. So this thing has momentum, and having been at the foundation of this, what an honor. So we built more than models and databases. We built bridges, and those bridges extend through time. We have learned through the giants that came before us, one of whom was here this morning and on the first day, Jack Schmidt. And isn't it just amazing to hear his talk? He's 90 years old and he still gives the talk that I personally have a hard time following because he's so incredibly sharp. Right, and it's people like that and Jack has worked with our institute since its beginning, from the early theorists, from the first lunar mappers, so many people that we stand on their shoulders, and then and we stand on their shoulders. But of course, like I've said so many times, it's important for us to support the next generation, the students, the postdocs, the early career scientists who will soon carry the torch. I can't say it enough. I'm so proud of you guys, all of you young people. You're going to do a fabulous job. You're going to do a fabulous job. You have counted on my support for the last 17 years, and you've gotten it. And I know darn well, because she and I talk about this a lot, that you're going to have an equal support from Christina as the Institute moves forward. That's not going to go down one iota. What you do, like Jane Goodall said, makes a difference. And you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make. Even as we look outward, our work has helped us connect, more deeply to Earth. Looking at my wife here, because that's what she does. From monitoring lunar dust to preparing for solar storms, our science often loops back to protecting our fragile home. She's had a whole career doing exactly that. Can you tell I'm proud? And likely to put a little light touch on things, she and I always say, she looks down and I look up. We also say that she's a little bit more grounded than I am, and that's also true, I promise you. Christina's a little bit more grounded than I am too. There's been, and in recent years, there's been a growing recognition of another level of connection to the wisdom of indigenous communities who studied the skies for millennia and who remind us that exploration has always had meaning far beyond the technical. And another, thing about Cindy is she started a program looking at indigenous knowledge for earth sciences, again, which I'm incredibly proud of. So I love this photo. I should say there's actually three of my favorite photos, which this is one. And when we talk about the Earth, I love Bill Anders' quote that we came all this way to explore the moon, and the most important thing is that we discovered the Earth. And this is the shot that's widely credited for establishing the environmental movement. This was taken from Apollo 8 and in December of 1968, I believe it was. I was very young at the time, but I still remember it. I think it's one of the most amazing missions that humanity has ever done. To me personally, almost the equal of Apollo 11. But I want to say, let's be honest, we're facing a time of uncertainty now. NASA, like a lot of federal agencies, is bracing for some cuts, major cuts potentially. Programs we care deeply about may shrink, they may even vanish. Opportunities for collaboration might become fewer and farther in between. And many of the people in this room and across our community are asking what the future holds. I've had a lot of conversations with some of you, particularly young people. But the message that I have about this, it would be easy to let these changes divide us. But we can't let that happen. The truth is, this is when connection matters the most. We have to work together, right? We have to work together in these times. And Lori Glaze, who has become a really close personal friend of mine, has shared this with the community many times because she saw what was happening as well. That we can't fight with each other. We can't say my mission's better than your mission and therefore it deserves the money. My science is better than your science. No, that doesn't work. That's what they want to do. They want to divide us, And, I look at my good friend Jacob here and think about what he said earlier. We can't let that happen. We have to maintain these connections because there's no power for change greater than a community discovering what it cares about. We know what we care about, right? We need to keep reaching out across centers, institutions, disciplines. We need to support one another to amplify each other's work and to remind ourselves why we do this. Science isn't just what we study, it's how we stay together in the face of challenge. This is my own life's work and something that I plan to continue, like I have mentioned. I'm not going to disappear. I'll change roles, but I'm not going to disappear. So to me, connection in all its forms is what gives exploration its soul. I strongly believe this. And as I prepare to step away from my own role at Survey, I found myself thinking a lot about these connections that are so very important to me. I like thinking that in my new orbit, I'll still be bound by gravity to the people and the passions that matter the most. This community, Survey, and all of you are truly part of me, and you always will be. So I'll close with this. Connection is the reason we reach to the stars, and it's the journey's true reward. So, and I want to show one last slide and make a couple last comments. This is many of you might know, that Sarah Noble, in addition to being an accomplished lunar scientist, the head of all the lunar stuff that NASA now does, she's also an accomplished artist. And for those of you who are Facebook friends with her, which I've been for quite a few years, every full moon, she does a special piece of art, and it's always different. She always has a new take on things, and they're always brilliant. I absolutely love them. So this one I felt, this is, I think, the one from this past full moon, and this is the one that I asked her to use in my talk, and she kindly said that I could. So I want to thank this community for letting me be a part of this great journey. I'm deeply grateful to all of you. I want to thank my absolutely amazing team, who, without whom we wouldn't be able to do this. I want to thank the PIs and their teams who regularly bring this absolutely phenomenal science to us. That like I say, I'm going to be, I may not be at the ECs anymore, but I'm sure as heck going to be watching what you guys do, and I know it's going to be as jaw-droppingly amazing as it's always been. For my team, I particularly want to thank Christina, who I can't imagine a better deputy if I had to choose through all of NASA. I also can't imagine a better person to succeed me and lead us on through the challenges that we have. And then most of all, I want to thank my wife Cindy, who came here to celebrate. I got both of us there, and for your support for all these years. So anyway, thanks everyone. It's been quite a gig. Thank you.